I'll just let people filter in on their own. The followers, okay. Hoi hoi. Messages. Yay! How big are the houses, if you don't mind me asking? You can tell me where you fucking go. Hi, Shanna. Mwah. You know Kev, don't you? He has been smoked for a week. Good, good, good. You know Kevin, don't you? Kevin Logan? KF5. He's UK. He's based in Birmingham. Hang on a second, come here. I don't have any emollient on that one. Ooh. Ooh. He got struck by Twitch last night midstream. So he appealed it, but the appeal didn't work. So he's off for a week from Twitch, which is going to be kind of bad for him. He earns most of his money on Twitch than he does on YouTube. It's the other way round for No Justice MTG. Helena gets most of her money from YouTube because she does lots and TikToks as well. She gets all of her analytics most of her analytics are for YouTube. Most of Kev's is for Twitch. I hope he's going to be okay. Plus he's came down with a cold. So we're all sending him love. Yeah. I've got an appointment with the endocrinologist at 10:30 in the morning, which is going to be fun. The hospital I have to get to is the main one for Glasgow. It's the other side of the river, about 5.5 miles away from currently here. So I have to leave the house at just before 8 in the morning. Yeah. Oh, they just call me up and say, it's time for you to have another MRI. It's mostly for the hips. They're a little bit worried. The right hip is showing an alarming tendency that it might actually dislocate, and at that point they have to do surgery. I really, really fucking hope I don't dislocate a hip, because the surgery isn't that long, but for someone 46, they don't want to risk it. Obviously, people who have got into car accidents have had major hip surgery. Obviously, car accident, wreck, blah, blah, blah. Lots of things. But you go in for chronic issues and stuff like that. They're trying to do everything else is possible. Surgery is the last resort. At this point, I'd be fine with it. Oh. Oh, you don't have to pay out of pocket for that, do you? Christ, your health system. I feel for you. I'd be fucked, man. I'm clumsy. Molting. Ooh. If you feel you need to go for it, I assume you've got a GP for me. Primary care physician, isn't it, for you? I'll still say American version GP. So yeah, if you need to go for it, yeah, that's the best way to get it. Obviously, you'll know that with the animals as well. Must be distressing for some animals having to get that sort of stuff done. Keep me updated if you want, obviously. How's the lovely Cappy? Yeah, well, we don't speak them and they don't speak us. Mind you, there's problem-solving intelligence, and they do actually respond like a lot of different creatures. Ravens and some crows. Oh my god! I assume it's not big enough for us, because the CT that I got sent to check the blood clots on my lungs, the room was the size of, like, I'm in this bedroom, Super Hubby's in the one next door, if we're doing different things. So the room I was in was the same, it was the width from like this bedroom down to our bathroom and all the way to the back wall of the other bedroom. The room was fucking huge. Plus there was 4 people, a consultant radiologist, and 2 senior techs and a nurse. And it still looked fucking massive, plus me on the CT machine. That was interesting. That was my first CT ever. I've lost track of x-rays. And 7, 8? 8 MRIs. And 2 DEXAs, which is a kind of MRI. It's smaller than an MRI machine and is not as claustrophobic, obviously. Oh my god. Poor little creature getting an MRI. They don't have to sedate us. Oh, my darling. It's the noise that gets to me more than anything. Plus, I move, I've got muscle tremors, I shake quite a lot. And when you're doing the MRI, yeah, not good. I have to get it done. I don't mind it. But I move. Like my hands shake, my legs shake quite badly at times. So that's the main thing. So getting a hip, or I've had my knees done a couple of times each now. And because I've got muscle tremors and what's known as restless leg, neurological issue, my legs do shake. They do move. Involuntary twitches most of the time, but they do physically, like that. Oh god. Oh. Solidarity, my comrade. Yeah. your neurons, your brain, and then your nerves, and your, is it sympathetic or para? Sympathetic system. It's It's like a mini. It's a little mini twitch, a little mini. Not like an actual twitch or anything like that, but it's just a little little interruption, essentially, minuscule interruption. That's what causes that. Common one, Bell's palsy. Like the eye and face. That's a bit more pronounced, obviously. Sister had it a few years ago. A good few years ago, actually. So, you get Bell's palsy from viral infections. Bacterial infections. Fuck. Yeah, there are certain classes that do that, King. They're meant to do the proper, the full drug interaction. They take blood from you or whatever area it's meant to be helping with and do a full workup before you start taking the meds. But half the time they don't do it. That's why there's lots of GPs who have specialisations. And they do all the interactions within that specialty. They're still GPs, obviously. God, holy fuck, it was an antiemetic. My practice is trying to stop. Obviously, there's people who need to take antiemetics. It's mostly cancer patients and some autoimmune sufferers, not me. I'm quite lucky. The only reason I throw up is because I drink too much. That or I've eaten something rank, which is just basically your system saying, nope, that's bad, fuck off. Are you on... you don't need to say if you're on anything, obviously, or what they are, but there's some chronic issues, and the medicines, the drugs that you take for them, they do have a nasty habit of destroying your stomach lining and your bowels and changing the way your kidneys function, which means they have to give you the antiemetic so you don't literally throw up stomach lining and stuff. Also, another thing that they do for certain people who have been put on NSAIDs in the past, take out the gallbladder or the spleen, depending on what kind of autoimmune it is. I didn't find this out until a couple of years ago. People who have lupus, they usually get their spleens removed, which is weird. But I can see how the interaction would happen. A lot of lupus sufferers also get put on antiemetics. They're trying to keep everything that's inside. Oh, that one doesn't get prescribed over here. That's only used in surgical settings. Either day surgery or, well, obviously if it's actual major surgery, you get fully put out. But that one gets used for like keyhole, so laparoscopic surgeries, gallbladder removal, spleen removal, fixing connective tissue things of that nature. But that doesn't, we don't really get, I'm sure, I think a couple of people in my life might have had it in the past, but they've had it after having major surgery done, no, like heart surgeries and shit like that. They've been given this because when they go into post-surgery recovery, they get put on it so they don't cause any sort of musculature issues. I've got IBS. But that's because of the interaction of my overactive metabolism. But I still don't lose weight correctly. I don't need to take antiemetics. All I need to do is smell bleach. I don't swallow it, or cleaning solutions with certain chemicals in them, and that makes me violently ill. They should really check you out for that. a lot of doctors, especially in England and Wales, well, maybe not Wales, but lots of GPs and stuff are overworked for obvious reasons. Can you hear me, Wes? Fund the NHS fucking properly. Because I talked to my GP years ago, Dr. Campbell, she's retired now, said, I need to be put on an antiemetic. Said, you don't, nah, you're fine. The damage it would have been used to control the NSAIDs you were on when you were under the age of 25. So that there was no point. I was in my 30s by the time I joined that. I was in my 30s by the time they figured this one out, because my previous GPs have been crap. Says there's no point now. She was thinking, because of my because I was on tramadol for 12 years. Bad. She was thinking I might, if you come back to me and say blah blah blah's happening, we might need to put you on an antiemetic, because of beneficial things. The antiemetic helps kind of not soothe, because of my acid reflux. I overproduce stomach acid, so hydrochloric. Apparently my concentration is really fucking strong. Delightful. But I didn't need to worry as much by the time I got round to them actually diagnosing me properly. Like I said, 2 previous GPs were crap. They were both in Clydebank. Oh, are you on omeprazole like me? I'm on 60 milligrams a day. Every time my mum keeps on asking me, what's your strength? 60 milligrams a day, mum. And she just looks at me. What the fuck, woman? She's not on it. My stepdad is. But he's only on 20 milligrams a day. He's older man. Ooh. Oh my God. I know what your reaction is. Sympathy. That gets mixed in with NSAID to help people, so they offset the effects of the anti-inflammatory drug. But that didn't exist when I got diagnosed as a teenager. Welcome to my world. Yeah, people's health's weird. Being able to educate people about the many different types of human, always good. Let's have some fun with the theogony.
You know how urban fantasy writers really like doing that all myths are true thing, so they try really hard to find some way to make sense of every world mythology being real all at once? And how sometimes it works okay, but sometimes it just comes across as really busy and incoherent? Well, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret about Greek mythology. Hesiod did it first. See, Greek mythology isn't internally consistent, because no mythology is, but that didn't stop Greek writers like Hesiod, a contemporary of Homer and one of the earliest sources we have, from trying to make
I assume you know what that was, King. Why it caused that in you. People automatically assume the stomach, or lower than the stomach. It's not. The Brufen goes for the throat. It goes for the esophagus. Because of the structure, the actual structure of the ibuprofen, it's like a grater going down your throat. So they have to check for stomach ulcers as well if you've been on Brufen for over a year, I think. Maybe 6 months. It's the throat that bleeds. With me, what my stomach done was cover it up with crystal still in this sort of ulcer on the bottom half of my stomach, so where it exits. And it was huge. It was a bubble about that size at the bottom of my stomach, right next to the sphincter leaving the stomach. I woke up screaming one night. That was delightful. There's different types, obviously, of Brufen. We've got over the counter as well, but you're not meant to go around pharmacies. They don't like you when you do that. Lots of people have done it though. Don't risk it. Ibuprofen can be quite destructive. So I don't. If I need any extra painkiller, I'm stuck to Pyretics, which is essentially paracetamol.
Validated narratives out of every random regional myth they could get their hands on. In Hesiod's case, his efforts famously produced the Theogony, an attempt to outline the genealogy of every single Greek god. I'm not talking the Big 12 here, I mean all of them. You want to know the names of all 50 Nereids? All 3,000 Oceanid nymphs? Well, Hesiod maybe can't give you all 3,000, but he's more than happy to rattle off 41 of them. Ever wonder what specific combination of titanic boinking produced the Oneiroi, the Ash Nymphs, the Hesperides? Well, don't you worry, Hesiod has it down. Everyone's got a place in the family tree. Everyone. So yeah, on a scale of 1 to American gods, Hesiod's ranking maybe a 3.5 on the actually making this interesting meter. That said, the Theogony is more than the world's most pompous flashcard set. Scattered haphazardly through its endless lists of meaningless names is a genuinely fascinating narrative of gods and monsters and the creation of the ancient Greek world we all know and love. So let's set aside the
That's why it's a pyretic. It helps cool you. Increases the vasodilation. It helps you sweat a bit more. Makes your sweating a little bit more efficient. And it doesn't attack as much. Unfortunate side effect. You do get backed up. You've held of the LD50, the lethal dose factor. How much you can go over and over, whatever it is. Paracetamol is ridiculously high for most humans. It doesn't work with me. Literally does fucking nothing whatsoever. It just goes right through, doing fuck all. I think my body says, oh, it's that thing. Nah, that's pointless. And just, nah. So what I have to use is topical. If any of my joints or anything goes, it's either the heat spray or the creams or gels you can get, or heat pads or a hot water ball. There's no point in me, mind you, in saying that, Super Happy's got 32, so 2 boxes of 16 paracetamol in our bug out bag. Our emergency bag, or go bag that the government told us to create. He went about OTT. Yes. So if it's musculature, those heat sprays work, and gels, blah blah blah. They all work. But if it's anything connected to the actual joint or the bone, won't work. Doesn't interact with osteum bones. So if it hasn't started burning, which it does, or cooling, as in cool spray or cold spray, if it hasn't started after about half an hour in me, I go, fuck, it's something to do with my bones again. I'm actually quite adept at telling now. And half the time it's just a muscle twinge and I just fucking leave it. It does work for him because most of his issues are muscle related. His bones are remarkably resilient. Mine's aren't.
genealogical aspect for now and focus on the fun part, the ancient Greek creation myth. So, in the beginning, there's nothing but chaos, a vague entity representing some sort of primordial emptiness pre-anything happening. But it's not alone for long, as soon enough Gaia, Tartarus, and Eros pop out of nowhere, representing the primordial earth, abyss, and existential concept of love, respectively. Chaos takes a cue and spoots out Erebos and Nyx, darkness and night respectively, and then I guess goes and takes a nap because that's the last we hear of it forever. While Nyx and Erebos are off bumping abstract concepts and creating the day-night cycle, Gaia crafts herself a partner, an equal and opposite in the form of Uranos, the sky to her earth. The two of them promptly get busy and crank out 3 sets of siblings, first 12 Titans, then 3 Cyclopses, and finally 3 Hecatoncheires, ludicrously powerful giants with 50 heads and 100 arms each. Now the Titans, Cyclopses, and Hecatoncheires have their differences, but they're united in their complete and utter hatred of Uranos for seemingly no reason at first, although it rapidly becomes justified when Uranos takes to imprisoning his more monstrous-looking children in secret locations under the earth. Gaia gets fed up with Uranos' shenanigans and comes up with a plan to knock him down a peg. She forges a sickle out of grey adamant and calls up her Titan children, asking them to help her take down Uranos so they can take his place ruling the universe. The Titans are a bit skittish, but the youngest, Kronos, Titan of the Harvest, accepts the task and ambushes Uranos, castrating him with the sickle. And in case you were wondering what happened to the balls, don't you worry! Hesiod's world-building rule is waste not, want not. They fall into the ocean and start foaming, and from that foam arises none other than the radiant Aphrodite, who presumably spent the next few millennia showering with a 1,000-yard stare. So Kronos supplants Uranos, and Uranos officially dubs him and his siblings Titans, which apparently means stretchers, the idea being that they stretched beyond their means in order to overthrow him. So this is officially when the Titan Age begins. Coincidentally, this is also around the time a whole bunch of death and destruction gods and classic monsters start popping out of the woodwork. So Kronos takes his sister Rhea as a wife, and they start cranking out kids. But Gaia and Uranos
Ha ha. Ha ha. There's 3. Where do you think you got the Trinity from? Christians, please stop being lazy. I beg of you. There's the primordial aspect, which was the original one you saw earlier on. You've got Eros, the god, before he became her son, even though she came after her son. Make sense. So there's 3 different, or there's 1, and they're all the same person. There we go, more Christian theology, mythology, whatever you want to call it. That's why we've got we've got Hecate, the triple-headed goddess, as well, magic, darkness, blah blah blah. 3, symbolism. They are indeed. They are. The triumvirate, Caesar, Pompey, Crassus. They took that inspiration from the triple aspects of a couple of the Olympians or the Hellenistic gods. Seriously, nothing new under the sun. Literally. It's mental. Mind you, we do see patterns everywhere. We have 3 aspects of man. If you go back far enough, you'll notice lots and lots of corollary. I struggle to say that word. They do, yeah. That one's always puzzled me. Because there's like 8 different species of rabbit. Or what would be classed as rabbits. Hares, rabbits, certain Arctic species as well. Apparently that was his main thesis in Watership Down. Damn, I've forgotten the author's name. That there's 3 running through that book.
warn Kronos that he's fated to be overthrown by one of his children. So as a safety precaution, Kronos swallows each of his children as soon as they're born. Bit extreme, but I guess the god of safe contraceptive measures didn't exist yet. After losing Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon to Kronos' exceedingly inefficient air disposal method, Rhea asks Gaia and Uranus for help keeping her sixth kid, Zeus, alive. And Gaia spirits the baby away to a secret location in the mountains while Rhea replaces him with a blanket-covered rock. So young Zeus is raised in secret by Gaia, and somewhere along the line decides the thing to do is supplant his father Kronos and take his place as ruler of the universe. So with the help of Metis, an Oceanid nymph with a serious talent for cunning plans, he slips Kronos a poison that causes him to throw up the kids he ate. Zeus, now allied with his 5 siblings, gives himself an additional edge by freeing the 3 Cyclopses from their prison, and in gratitude they forge him his lightning bolts. Zeus, now geared up with weapons and allies, rallies support from the frankly ridiculous number of minor gods running around at this point, and goes to war with the Titans. The conflict lasts for 10 straight years until Gaia suggests that Zeus could maybe free the Hecatoncheires too, and it turns out the ridiculously strong 50-headed, 100-handed rock-chucking giants were exactly what he needed to turn the tables and finally overthrow Kronos. Kronos and his allies are thrown into Tartarus, and Zeus takes his place.
Yeah, I quite like that one. The Chinese probes to send up and shit like that. That'd be fun. Name them after some of their deities. A good few of them are connected to the moon. Funny that. We look up and we see this beautiful glowing orb. You'd want to name a god or a goddess out of it, I guess.
King of the cosmos, after a short interlude where he, Poseidon, and Hades draw lots to determine who exactly gets to lord over what bits of the universe. So Zeus marries Metis and she gets pregnant, but Zeus is warned by Gaia and Uranus that Metis is destined to bear thoughtful children more cunning than Zeus, first a daughter and then a son who will eventually overthrow him. Determined to stay super cool god emperor of everything forever, Zeus reacts by eating Metis, but not in like a murder way, in like a subsuming her essence into himself so she can provide him with wisdom and advice kind of way. Is that better? Still a huge dick move. Also really ironic, considering Metis helped him overthrow Kronos by making him puke. Guess the lesson here is never do any favors for Zeus. In the meantime, Zeus marries Hera, and she has Ares and Hephaestus. Then he has a fling with Leto that produces Artemis and Apollo, and then one day Zeus develops an absolutely splitting headache. And when he responds extremely literally by actually splitting his head open to relieve the pressure, Metis' daughter Athena pops out of his forehead fully grown and ready to kick some ass. Turns out absorbing your pregnant wife can have unforeseen medical consequences. Ask your doctor if absorbing your pregnant spouse is right for you. Side effects may include migraines, dizziness, and childbirth. Anyway, rounding out the Olympian roster, Zeus has a fling with the Pleiad Maia, producing Hermes, and lastly, a complicated fling with the mortal Semele, producing the equally complicated Dionysus. Zeus, having successfully dodged the destiny of being supplanted by his own kid by learning the lessons of history that his father failed to internalize, proceeds to flagrantly bang his way across the entire Mediterranean, secure in the knowledge that this could literally never go badly for him. Ever. Nope. Zeus's divine down-unders are a consequence-free zone. Except that one time where he had to specifically not bang Thetis because she was fated to bear a son stronger than his father. But other than that, no worries, right? Seriously, why keep tempting fate? Just bag it up if ruling the cosmos is so important to you. Welcome to your life.
I want to know if the mystery cult still exists. Yeah, he did exist before the Hellenistic period. So like the 12 Olympians, essentially, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, blah, 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 all of them. He existed before them, during the Mycenaean, apparently, but he was written about obliquely. I've read some of these texts. Oblique would be a step up. If this god was worshipped in any sort of fashion, we'd maybe. There is other mystery cults that we knew did exist, but we don't know what they did. If there's still practitioners out there, please contact me. I'd love to talk to you.
There's no turning back, even while we sleep. We will find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world.
What the fuck? Seriously? That is awesome. My God, I could bend your ear. That is, how did your mum feel about that? That is stunning. I know a couple of Ophelias, and yes, named after her. Why? Why would you do that to your daughter? You did see what happened to her in the play, didn't yez? At least I don't know any Hamlets. My God. Mind you, in saying that, actually having Brian Blessed be your dad, that must have been fucking awesome. In fact, let's see if there's any news. Oh, yeah. Don't dox yourself. So that name's on your birth certificate. Do. Yes. Thank you. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Will we? Oh, right. Oddly enough, I was only Katie in my school for a good few years, actually. It was weird. Both my sisters' names were quite common in our primary and secondary schools. We went to the same ones, essentially. Obviously, there's years between us. Well, 18 months from middle, 4 years for my youngest sister. So, same primary school, same secondary. Their first names are quite common. Have you? Cool. I wasn't. I know. I was in my early 20s before I met another Katie. How old? 22 or something. Ooh, that's a good fucking question. Ah. Oh god, no, I've met loads of Katies online. Is Katie an online creature? This one is. The IRL Katies that I know, one's now moved out of the UK completely. She now lives and works in Germany. The other IRL Katie has moved over to the States. One of them's the same age as me. March. She's September. The other Katie is a decade older than us. And she moved over 2 years after I met her. She was also into heavy metal. That's weird. The other Katie. The one that's the same age as me. Heavy metal. Is that a Gen X or something then? The older Katie. Classical and jazz. Each to their own, especially with their music choices. Shannon is quite popular over here. Yeah. I know there's lots of Shannon here in Scotland. No, Celtic type name, really. Okay.
Love podcast Hate says.
Oh yeah, that's actually.
It's raining.
It is, yeah. You got caught in it on the way in.
I had a long cycle as well. 25
You're
minute
a lot
cycle.
further away than I am.
I feel further away.
Yeah.
Am I still in the camera? Yeah.
Cool.
Am I just not in shot today?
like half of your face.
Is it that
is
thing they
in
do on
your shot.
GB News where someone drinks the pint?
The lefty in the left. Is it left in the corner or lefty? It's lefty in the corner.
Well, glad we sorted that out.
Yeah. Our audience probably know better than we do what it is.
Yeah. Big GB News watchers.
Big GB News watchers.
They go from here to Patrick Christie.
Lefty in the corner. Or cock chair. Yeah, don't disrespect us. We probably know more than most people in GB. I think. Cool. I haven't met any male Shannons. All the Shannons I've met, all 4 of them, all female. Right.
Fantastic.
The Pipeline. Politics Show podcast. Patrick Christie's.
Yeah. Patrick
Does
today.
Anderson still have his show? No.
He actually did a piece yesterday that I enjoyed. I didn't watch it. I just saw I'm going to go watch it afterwards. But I liked the impetus, which was that it's pointless, the vape ban. And I completely agree with him. I agree with the premise. I need to watch the piece, but I agree with the premise.
Which is?
So basically what they've done with these... I'll show you. If I were to be quitting smoking, I'd be hitting a vape, but I'm doing neither of those things.
Well, this is just a prop for the sake of this.
The prop for the sake of that. So what they've done is they've just added a rechargeable point at the bottom, but there's no I can't. Oh, I can. I guess I can refill that. I don't think
You can put a new cartridge in it. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think so. Don't pull it apart because not that I need it.
Sure. No, you can. You can there's a clip here by the look of it.
Okay.
But it doesn't look like it's a refillable.
No, and also
cartridge.
they're.
Recharge. Take this bit off. Takes out the element. Can you feel it? Only when we've either dropped them or lost them somewhere, we've bought vapes. The disposable ones, the ones that are completely sealed, but they're outlawed now. I prefer these ones, 20 quid, easy. Obviously you can spend, I've heard of people spending 120 on reusable and they last for years. This lasts 18 months, maybe 2 years, depending on how much you use it. Most of the time, if I've not broken it or lost it, 18, maybe a year. It's a bit hit and miss with some of the productions of these. This brand isn't too bad. Plus, look, purple. Oh. Naughty girl. I didn't even start young. My two sisters did. I didn't start smoking until I was 24. But that was because I was using hash a lot. I was taking joints for my joint issues. My mum didn't realise I was doing it. I started doing that when I was 18 or something, I think. But actual cigarettes or roll-ups, 24 years old. Was already with him. I was naughty. I got him started. He only smoked for about 3 or 4 years. I still smoked. I'm being good. I'm trying to. Plus the price of cigarettes and tobacco now. Fucking hell. Good for you, King. It's not worth it. It comes under what a lot of people call sin taxes. Keep on raising the prices of them. At least they've learned prohibition doesn't fucking work. That's why we've got the unit prices for alcohol up here. So if you're going to put a unit price on stuff, a lot of what's happened, and we told them this, well, you're going to be stopping people from like drinking beers and ciders and wine. They're going to go on to, if they're still going to drink, they don't mind paying the extra cost. They'll just go straight onto spirits. Same with me. I probably drink more than I smoke. My niece has been encouraged to quit. I hope they do. I really do. Problem with that is, though, her bestie, when she came back from her holiday, she gave my niece far too much tobacco. So they still carry on. Tobacco slightly cheaper than cigarettes. Don't get me wrong, I think they do actually use cigarettes every now and again. We've told them this. Funny that government's not listening to its people. Never known to happen.
£6. Why would anyone refill that?
Yeah. I saw
you just buy a new one.
there was something, I think, in an off license in Birmingham or something where they changed the display to
Yes,
mouth operated
Yorkshire.
air fresheners.
Yorkshire, very good.
It was Yorkshire, yeah. I wonder if they're going to do that wholesale.
So what I was talking about, I was positing last night, was what they actually should have done is put a tax on the lithium battery.
Yeah.
So they could have put a really heavy levy on that. They need tax money at the moment. And it would force people to go home and recharge them. Because I'm going to be honest with you, why would I recharge that if I can't put the juice back in? I don't need to.
Yeah.
It's just going to go in the bin and I'm going to buy another £6 if I was a vapor.
That is like, it's a twofold issue, isn't it? It's like single-use plastic, but also the battery is just not being recharged when it can be recharged. It just doesn't have the capacity in the vape itself to do so.
Yeah, and because they're not run out properly, they set the bins on fire.
Yeah. They set bins on fire, but also they are very difficult to dispose of. So you just have mountains of them, right?
Yeah, and they're also in short supply.
Yeah.
They're not like, well, the amount that we are using.
Good for you, King. Good for you. My dad was also an alcoholic. Me and youngest probably do drink a bit too much at times. Middle sister doesn't now, for reasons. She didn't really drink that much anyway. She was astounded. She used to live in Ayr, and there was a nightclub called, I don't know if you've been up here or not, there was a nightclub called the Powerhouse. And we used to couple of bottles of hooch or breezers, then go to the Powerhouse when it opened at like 10, 11, can't remember. And she was astounded at how much I could put away. And that's when I told her this, fucking over 20 years ago. I am very naughty, little sister. I use this as a painkiller. But your meds. What? You do know why you're told not to drink on the meds that I drink. It's not for any psychological issue. It's for physical. And trust me, with everything else, I wouldn't fucking notice it. The unfortunate side effects. For most things that people drink, you do have lower down issues. Let's be polite about this. Or you can't hold it and you bring it back up, which is more destructive. Having it come out, because it's not coming from your stomach or anything, or your throat, it's coming from your intestines. Blah. So it's dragging lots of things back up. But that's the way some humans, some people expel, others expel the other way. How much would it cost for me to get completely paralytic? And this includes the unit price, which is now 65p per unit of whatever thing it is. Would probably cost me over 120 quid to get completely paralytic. And most of the times we just spend like 30 between the two of us. Maybe 40. It's probably closer to 40 now, come to think of it, due to the unit pricing. I'm easy with vodka. I do like my high price bourbon. Obviously, there's only certain places I can get some of my favourite bourbons. Obviously, you've got like Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Three Roses. They're most obviously Jack Daniels. Market concentration, obviously. It's one of the most popular bourbons. I like Wild Turkey. Hardly ever see Wild Turkey because Jack Daniels. Super Hubby's like me vodka, but he also likes single malt. Oh my god. My 10-pack of either beer or cider, that's like 40 units. Like I said, it would take me a lot to get drunk. Plus, I have actually started being a lot better. I'm eating first, but still drinking the same amount, so not doing as much damage. Or probably reducing the amount of damage done to my lower intestines. Younger sister always eats before I sometimes don't eat because other reasons. I won't bore you with them. Oh, I choke quite bad. Fuck it, I'll tell you. I choke quite badly. I've got a fucking fierce gag reflex, and if I ingest anything badly, weirdly, differently, pick a word, things can get trapped or stuck. I've went cyanotic a couple of times in my life over that. That was frightening. Are you? Try Oban. Oban is delicious. That's the only one I can drink.
Memes.
Yeah.
It's in short supply.
Yeah. Have you ever seen those videos of the the workers in the factories in China that are like testing the vapes to see if they all work.
Yes.
It's outstanding carry on.
Yeah.
Like they just have a stack of Lost Marys in their hand like that, and they play it like a
Yeah.
pan flute. Like,
But it is pointless. I mean, imagine the levy you could have put on that. You could have done you could put a £2 levy on each one of them.
yeah.
The company would the company has adapted because they've added a reusable charger. Do you know what I mean?
Which like is a pretty heavy operation, because I'm sure they're producing hundreds of thousands of them every couple of hours.
Yeah.
And the production line is just constantly operating. That at one point they just said the UK is getting rid of these, start putting USB ports on.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's, yeah. Imagine that £2 on every vape, then they would be going for £8. People would pay that, and the company would have adapted that you had to refill them.
If you were smoking that, how long would it last you?
They're 200 puffs, I think.
Right.
So they're what, 20 cigarettes?
Oh, so it's a...
No, sorry, they're 600 puffs. I remember looking it up, and an elf bar was the equivalent of 20 cigarettes.
Right. Does it feel like that when you get through an elf bar?
Don't know.
Well, of course, yeah.
Don't smoke it.
Yeah. How would you know? Anyway,
This
outside
is a really
of that,
light one, this is. Oh, no, I don't know. I'm not very good with
what, like percentages or what?
2% nicotine. What does that mean?
If you ingest the whole vape,
No, because a friend of mine...
2% of your body is nicotine.
Well, hang on. My friend this morning was talking about how she's quitting and she's got herself down to quite... Let me have a look. Because she said it was quite low.
A percentage of nicotine, or how much of your
Oh, she's
body?
down to 1 milligram. What's that got to do with percent?
And they're just playing with numbers here now, aren't they?
It's just their
Oh my god. $16 milligrams per milliliter. These are 10 ml balls. And no, if you were to ingest that, you'd get nicotine poisoning, which is really, really quite bad. That's why whenever you've refilled it, if you get any on your fingers, any on your skin, anywhere, clean it off. Anywhere on your face, especially around your mouth, nose, blah, blah, blah. Wipe off face gloss or makeup wipe, get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. Wash your hands. Because it gets absorbed through the skin. The thing it gets suspended in, it sticks to your skin, but the nicotine gets absorbed because the way our skin works. So you have to wash it off immediately. Yeah, don't drink those balls. Mm.
laughing about, aren't they?
What percentage of your body would be nicotine before it would be a problem?
Well, someone I know did do 2 Lost Marys in one day and they were really ill. Really, really ill.
And you say what? It's 200 puffs in a Lost Mary? Or no, it's a box of cigarettes, roughly.
No, I think it's the equivalent of 20 cigarettes. So they smoke
Right.
40 cigarettes.
So
a day.
2...
Pussy. I could have done
Yeah,
that.
that's a wimp.
Yeah.
That's a wimp if I've ever seen one. Before we continue, shall we have a look at some Conservative Party
Well, let's set it up
messaging?
properly.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do a watch along.
This is our Bobby J watch-along.
Big Bobby J. Shame we haven't got those hats. Last week, Robert Jenrick put out a video where he was catching, quote unquote, alleged fare dodgers on TFL.
Last time I checked, I don't think that's his job. Get back to the Commons, you absolute lunatic. Seriously, King, what did you think of that? Just, what? You could get done for harassing people. You can get arrested for that shit. No. That is probably going to be the next leader of the Tories. Just fucking end me, please.
He was doing this in Stratford in East London, And he kept lamenting how politicians never get out of Westminster. And when you get out of Westminster, you can really see the crime that affects people. Stratford's hardly out of Westminster, is it? It's one tube. It's
Not
the
so
Jubilee line.
Famously not an MP for anywhere in London.
He's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's back on the crime wave. That's interesting to me that he's following crime. Someone actually totted up the
Right, if he wanted to take an active interest, maybe he could have done fare dodgers from his actual seat. Let's see where Jenrick represents. And seriously, wherever this place is, why did you vote him in? I don't know. Okay, Bobby J, where are you? We laugh at the bastard. Robert. Not Ruby. Robert. Jenrick. Oh, what the fuck? The two main conurbations just outside his constituency are Nottingham and Lincoln. The East Midlands. So, miles away. Right, if you're bothered by that, Jenrick, go up to your constituency and do it. Not in fucking London. What's this? Elections. What's this? His majority is 3,572. 67% turnout last year. Christ's sake. At least it's better than some of the other ones on the list. Do you? Did they vote for him? Labour second, Reform third, Lib Dem third, fourth, Green fourth, Independent Network fifth, an Independent, English Democrat. Workers' Party came last. Newark, what are you doing?
stats of if he had... I'm so confused this morning. So I was on Good Morning Britain on Friday, and this is what I had to say then.
I was just looking up actually where his constituency was, because he was talking yesterday about how politicians need to get out of Westminster and they need to start focusing on the people again. Yeah, his constituency is not, it's not in Stratford. It's actually nowhere near London. I think possibly people would rather him be in the area where he was elected. But do you know what I love about Robert Jenrick? What's so interesting is that just he's talking about fare dodging. He's talking about, fair pay if you're, it's not fair on everyone else if people aren't contributing. Just a short couple of years ago, he was helping out his friend Richard Desmond, who was creating this £1 billion housing project over on the Isle of Dogs in East London. And just before this new piece of legislation got in, Robert Jenrick sneaked through the planning application, which meant that Desmond didn't have to pay £40 million to Tower Hamlets. And look, a couple of pounds here and there with a fare, yeah, it's annoying, but imagine what £40 million could have done to the borough of Tower Hamlets.
He's not wrong.
I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was, if Robert Jenrick was doing that for 1,000 years, he still would not recoup the amount of money lost had he not fast-tracked his mate's planning application before new legislation came in.
Slaps.
So he's kind of just picking and choosing his fights here as well. But also, it's just really ratty behaviour. Like, why are you... Don't be ratting on people, man. Just let them be, It's not that big of a deal.
There's a Conservative advisor, a former Conservative, Spad, who I actually really like as a person, but he seems to be very irritated that last week I said I probably wouldn't stop a fare dodger. But I wouldn't. I don't.
Well, why would you? It's none of your business.
It's none of my business.
Yeah.
It's also like, I don't want to sound overly moral, or but how do you know that they can't afford it? You know, how do you know that they're doing that out of spite rather than they actually just don't have the cash to do it?
Yeah. But it's also, like, in comparison to places like New York, there isn't that much of a problem with fare dodging in the UK. Now, fare
so you've
dodging is
gotta cut it
happening
right
anyway.
down.
They've cut it down.
Cut it right down, yeah.
But I don't know, the video itself is just like, 'cause he initially prefaces the whole thing as though Sadiq Khan should be doing what Robert Jenrick is doing in the video.
Yeah.
But then he then starts guiding people towards
I think Sadiq Khan's a bit too busy to harass fare dodgers. Plus, that's what the transport police are for. That's their job. They get paid to do that. And I think, I can't remember, I don't think people are doing it as much. It's easy, you can go online to buy it, plus I think the travel's a hell of a cheaper down in London anyway. We get scalped up here in Scotland. Not in Edinburgh, plus I don't either, because free bus travel. Free bus travel, 75% of all train fares within Scotland.
the transport police, then it's just, if that happened in, I'm trying to think if it happened in Dublin, if someone on the Lewis, which is famously free, by the way, if you're ever in Dublin, you don't have to pay for the Lewis. You do. That's just like
I was like, oh,
it's
interesting.
a
I was like, what a wonderful fact.
it's an inside
What a
joke.
wonderful little tour guide tip.
It's an inside joke with Irish people that you don't have to pay for the Lewis. If there are any Irish people listening, they're probably going to be in the comments now saying that I'm lying and it is actually free. But it's not free. You do have to pay to use the Lewis. Don't listen to the people in the comments if they're there. But the... Huh?
Rat.
Yeah. But I'm not telling on those people.
Rejoice, comrades. Philippe has arrived. Hi, Philippe. Mwah. Great to see you, comrade.
People. I've seen people that have been told on by other people on public transport and they get murked, you know. So it was quite a risky thing for Robert Jenrick to do, because he's not a very recognizable person.
Excuse
You
me.
know.
Excuse me.
Do
Do
you
you want to
know
go
what I
back and
mean?
pay?
Do you know
Excuse
what I
me.
mean? Like, you're running the risk of getting a slap. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, Susanna Reid pointed out something interesting actually yesterday, that a man does say to him, "I have a knife."
yeah.
Robert
Yeah.
Bobby J is like, "You have a knife,"
Yeah.
and then does nothing about
Does
it.
nothing, yeah.
Then he goes back to being like, "Well, we better head back to the barriers and catch some more fare dodgers." And it's like, I think that you should have reported the guy who had the knife.
Yes. Yeah.
There's very few people who actually pay, Young Scot card free. You get your free travel for under 25s. Disabled, either just for free bus travel. Plus, I get free for my if he comes with me, I get free for Super Hubby because I need him. Like I say, clumsy. There's very few people, everyone over 65, obviously free bus travel for them as well. So there's only a few, it's mostly full-time workers. If you're disabled but you still go out and work, you still get your free bus travel. Which is good, I like that. The Scottish Government pay for it. So basically our taxes. But yeah, there's not many, don't get me wrong, there's a good couple of million people who pay for their travel. couple of 100,000 here in Glasgow. There's entire areas with low car usage, and the people have free bus travel, free bus cards. Because we need them. Because first, our bastards, they keep on cutting our services, especially here in the north of Glasgow. The south and the west of Glasgow are better served, denser populations, more people using the buses. The next main concentration of population is up here in the north. Lowest car ownership, I think, in the UK. Yeah, first group are just blah, blah. The next two biggest bus companies here in Scotland, they're not as dickish. First are, because they're nothing but fucking bullies. They keep on trying to renegotiate how much so they negotiate with the Scottish Executive how much they charge every time I scan the card, whether it's just me on my own or me and Super Hubby. And they keep on trying to double it up. I think it's currently sitting at 165 or 167 every time the card gets scanned. They do know there's other places other than Penzance and Truro, don't they? That's daft. Sat-nav. I'm sure he's Cornwall as well. Sure of it.
You know.
Shall we have a look at his latest foray into
How will we do it? Do you want to come over
vigilantism?
here and watch it, and then we'll put it on picture-in-picture for the viewer?
Yeah,
We'll come round here. We'll share a mic, shall we?
let's share a mic. This is going to be interesting.
Are we both in shot, guys?
Like that?
Why is it that Keir Starmer's Attorney General, Lord Hermer, represented all these clients?
That's sick.
Amazing.
He says cab rank rule, and it's a vital legal principle. Gary, what's the cab rank rule?
It means the first cab of any rank
that the
must
GB
take
News
the
guy?
first customer.
Easy. And it's the same for many lawyers.
Can I just pause for 1 second there? I thought that was the guy who eats the Chinese for a minute.
That's the cabbie that does be in Lee Anderson's. I don't know if
Really?
is he still on GB News, Lee Anderson?
I don't know.
He had a segment on.
That can also get disregarded in lots of different ways, by the way, the rank rule. If you're far enough away from a rank and you put your hand out for them to stop, neither of them need to stop for you if they're going to the rank, or both might stop for you, or just one if they know each other. Obviously, they're a business. They own that setup. Christ knows how much they have to fucking pay for it. Oh, right. Huh. That makes sense. So you have to be far enough away from a designated rank. For us, our nearest rank would be the shopping centre just down. Fucking hell, can I orientate myself? That's the part. So, I'm at the right side of the building. Down that way. Down to my left. Half a mile? That's quite a popular rank. There's usually at least one. But the closer you get to the city centre, the more concentrated it gets. So, like the pub that I drink in the city centre, there's 3 black hack ranks within like 10 minutes. The nearest one, you can literally stand outside the pub I drink in and literally hit the rank or hit one of the taxis in the rank. But black hacks are more expensive because, like I said, they're businesses. We call up private hire because they're a hell of a cheaper. Oh, fuck, that sucks. I blame beaching.
His show where he would be in a cab either on his way to the studio or on his way back from the studio, and he was
talked to
chatting
this
to
cabbie?
that cabbie. Yeah.
So Bobby J is used an insider cabbie.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we carry on?
Interesting. Let's carry on.
Criminal barristers can represent people accused of horrific crimes because everyone knows they had to take the case. What's true for our criminal barristers just wasn't true for Lord Hermer. He was a top human rights lawyer. He will have been inundated with cases, able to choose the pick of the bunch. And what's more, he often worked on a pro bono or no win, no fee basis, and the cab rank rule just doesn't apply to these cases. In other words, when Hermer's
Sorry, I just need to talk about the picture that they've chosen of Jerry Adams. If that is Jerry Adams, we don't know.
Jerry Adams would, of course, deny that that's a photo of him.
When Hermer's cab arrived, he chose his passengers. Jerry Adams, not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda, including 2 of Osama bin Laden's lieutenants, 1 linked to 9/11, and 1 to 21/7. The mother of an ISIS beetle, Shamima Begum.
21/7.
Is it
I thought
the Madrid bus?
Anyone know what 21/7 is? I thought it was 7/7.
It is 7/7.
What's 21/7?
It must be the is 21/7 the Madrid terrorist attack?
It's confusing, isn't it, of course, because 9/11 is 11/9, really, isn't it? So when he's saying 21/7, is that 7th of the 21st month?
Or is it just 3?
Bobby J's got his months.
Terror attack.
Yeah, do it on the work Wi-Fi, that's good.
Attempted bombings on the 21st of July 2005. Series of 4 coordinated suicide
I did
attacks.
not know that they came back again in another July. That's interesting, isn't it?
No, it's the same year, isn't it? 2005 was when 7/7 happened.
Oh, they tried
like
to
2
come
weeks later.
back.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got you.
Yeah.
My God, was that 2005? I remember it like it was yesterday.
I was over in London the day after
I know
that.
you were. It's crazy, that, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Anyway, let's continue.
Shamima Begum, Caribbean nations demanding reparations.
Al-Qaeda, Shamima Begum, Jerry Adams, the Caribbean nations looking for slavery reparations.
Terrorists.
They're not the same, man.
Legally, who claimed to be 16, but was actually 26. If someone wants to spend their life defending Britain's enemies, that's on them and their conscience. But that someone shouldn't be chosen to be our Attorney General.
Everyone deserves representation, you absolute bastard. Lots of them are different issues, by the way, Jenrick. I will not betray this person's confidence whatsoever. Person that I know is a procurator fiscal, which is basically a prosecutor up here in Scotland. My God, they'd be losing their mind at this bit. Jenrick, you wanker. Seriously, why the fuck is he an MP? That's fucking ridiculous. And how are those Caribbean nations our enemy?
Never had an Attorney General so connected to so many people suing the British government. Now, before the general election, Hermer represented 5 Sri Lankans seeking asylum in the United Kingdom. They lost the case. After the election, they were granted asylum in a special deal. Now, even if all the correct procedures were put in place on conflicts of interest, even the perception of this kind of stuff damages public
Surely they
trust.
couldn't. They
Last
could have
week,
found a
people
better
called for
way
Hermer to
stop.
resign after he likened those criticising the ECHR to the Nazis. But the truth is, Starmer should never have appointed him in the first place. And why did he? Because they share exactly the same views. Britain deserves better than the pair of them.
Okay.
Well, that was fun.
Wow.
Good man, Bobby J.
That
Do you know
He deserves
he's
better.
gonna?
He produced that video, wasn't it?
Yeah, very intense, very dramatic. He's gonna have a field day when the reparations for internment in Northern Ireland start coming out. Because I mean, Jerry Adams famously got €100,000 off the BBC last week,
Yeah.
but you've
I
still
don't know. You
got.
might deny that as well.
He's still got, well, not him, a slew of people from Northern Ireland have a case pending against the UK government for internment during the Troubles. So basically imprisoned without trial, breach of human rights. Jerry Adams was one of those people. And he is currently in line to get compensation from the British government for that. So I look forward to seeing Robert Jenrick's video on that matter as well. Keir Starmer dishing out cash for Jerry Adams.
He'll be. Yes, that will light his fire.
Yeah, it will.
The Shamima Begum stuff is odd, isn't it?
She gets a very small mention in that video, to be fair.
Yeah, she does.
She was groomed. I wouldn't let it happen. Should have brought her home. Locked her up here. Tried to rehabilitate her. Shouldn't be allowed to make people stateless. Sickening, really. Right, she done wrong. But she got radicalised, she got groomed, she was a child. Do not make people stateless. Urgh.
I always find I think it is fundamentally unconservative to strip someone of their citizenship.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel British.
because isn't it that she doesn't have a Bangladeshi passport but is eligible for one,
Yeah,
which is how they're trying to get around it.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dual nationality, I think she has.
No, that's the thing. She's eligible for dual nationality.
Depends who you ask. Bangladeshi parents. She's British. She was born here in the UK. She's a British citizen. I can't actually remember if her parents. They'd be older Gen Xers. Might have been Bangladeshi. But she was born here in the UK. Birth certificate, the lot. British passport. Under the age of 16, she would have needed a parent to sign for it.
But
Oh, right.
currently is just
she
a
hasn't
British
got the
citizen.
document.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Which was what.
The Shamima argument is always totally bizarre for me.
Mhm.
I never even really want to get into it on like from a moralistic standpoint. I never think about it in this. She was groomed, right? And you know, in any other grooming case, we would take that pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's about that. It really is baseline. You can't just strip someone of their citizenship.
Yeah.
It needs to come back to Britain and sit in a jail here forever.
No,
Like,
exactly.
you can't
Exactly.
just leave her. What did we say the other day? Why were we calling her British Mother?
Oh, I don't know if we can have this in.
Really?
Yeah, because we were ragging on.
Oh, okay. No. We can. What we were saying was Lucy Connolly in the press is described as, you know, a British mother.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
never hear them describe Shamima Begum as that.
Exactly. It's like that. It's that meme, isn't it? The Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier.
Yeah.
Oh, Shamima Begum,
Yeah.
the mother, loving mother, Shamima Begum.
Devoted mother of 3. Who's to say she isn't?
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm sure she is. I'm sure she is. It is. I don't know how this is just a bit of a whirlwind podcast at the moment, isn't it?
We're just talking about the Robert Jenrick video.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
just. This is smooth jazz.
I think we're so in early. We watched that live with you. So
I will be back momentarily, comrades.
actually would be really interested in what you think about it.
Yeah.
Why don't you? I mean, I guess the sort of the political point is how many more of these videos can Kemi Badenoch survive?
Yeah.
She's got Prime Minister's questions tomorrow. She's not polling particularly well. Jenrick has got a slick new look. He's got a slick new videographer.
He really does. Yeah. Actually, the quality of this video is far and away better than the one he put out last week.
Well, presumably he was allowed to film this one.
Yeah.
Actually, are you? Because
Well, yeah, of
I
course.
guess
He's on a public highway, isn't he?
yes, but also he could make the argument that it's for. Yeah, no, he's fine. But that coming out that he was rule breaking,
Yeah.
filming on TfL property, that did tickle me.
Having the GB News cabbie have a stint in it as well is quite funny. Of just we need to find a cabbie. We can't just ask a random taxi man. We know this guy from
Yeah.
GB News. Let's get him
Do
on.
any of you lot know a black cabbie?
Yeah.
Do any
Yeah,
of you
yeah.
lot? There was one on GB News. I've seen
Let's
it.
get him. Let's get him. Yeah.
Incredible,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I just like the sell of it. It's Jerry Adams, Shamima Begum, Osama bin Laden's right hand man. It's just giving me, the Gareth Bale flag, golf, Wales, Madrid in that order.
Yeah.
That's what it says to me when I'm reading those three things. Jerry Adams, Shamima Begum, Osama bin Laden's right hand man in that order. Lads Holiday, George's Cross, Jerry Adams, Shamima Begum.
Where do the reparations for Caribbean islands fit into this?
That was so fun. I really wasn't
rogue.
expecting that. Don't appoint this man. He's woke, but also a terrorist.
Yeah, a woke terrorist.
A woke terrorist.
The worst kind.
Is Shamima Begum woke? Is Jerry Adams woke?
Is Jerry Adams woke?
Yeah, I'd say Jerry Adams is woke. By what metric? Just that he has...
Has he ever been on Saturday brunch or Sunday brunch?
I don't know.
He's
I
got
don't
that
think
cooking book, hasn't he?
He has got the cookbook, yeah. When he was the leader of Sinn Féin, like the last couple of years, he was really cooking in another way
Okay.
of just like the content strategy of Sinn Féin around his last couple of years was so funny because they just made him a meme. They teddy beared him. He was not like this big bad wolf anymore. He was the Fenian granddad.
He would
Like,
deny, of course, that he was ever the big bad wolf.
he would also deny that he was ever the leader of Sinn Féin. Jerry Adams, the Irish citizen.
I actually would really love to hear your thoughts on the Robert Jamrick video. So see you on the Reddit for that one.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're going to talk to you about Liz Kendall.
You were up in Liverpool with the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, weren't you?
I was.
Mhm.
Yes, the minister was visiting a jobs fair. It was at Anfield.
Mm-hmm.
She was sort of launching this new fund. Sorry, because it was a week ago, I've got to remember why I actually went. She was launching a new fund that she's giving to a couple of cities across the UK to get young people back into work. It's about supporting young people who are currently on, well, they might be signed off for mental health issues, or they might just be struggling to find a career after school. And it's about helping those kids get into work. And actually, I spoke to a couple of the kids who just received work or just gotten into work, and they had a work coach. And I tell you what, the language around this is really difficult because I really hate the idea of a work coach. To me, it sounds quite Dickensian.
Yeah.
This guy was great. I really, really liked him. And the kids that he'd been a million. These guys that I spoke to, they were talking about their poor mental health and about how they got into a situation where they were frightened to leave the house, but having this work coach, again, I don't really like the terminology, but it doesn't really matter. Having this work coach that they could go and have like a tea with or meet with to guide them into work, particularly in cases where some of these children didn't have parents per se.
Okay.
A couple of them were care leavers.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was weird. Oh, have you seen... I've got my Stream Manager on my phone. And it's all shiny and new. I updated it last night. It was weird, because it kept on dropping. And I thought, better go and see if it needs updated. And it did. And it looks... Yeah, I'm back. Odd. Everyone can see me. I am here. Hopefully. Internet? What strength am on? Give me a second. Comments. Excellent. Strength is excellent, apparently. I gave up. I moved it through to it's a little dongle. No, not a dongle. It doesn't get plugged in this. So you plug it in, and it sends the Wi-Fi throughout the flat. And because I had to close the door, not to annoy if he's in the living room watching thing or in bed sleeping, I brought it in here. So I thought that I would stop. It is literally 8 feet away from me now, instead of like through the wall, through 2 sets of cupboards, into the living room, which is like 20 feet, maybe 25 feet. Oh no, that's 5. It's 28 feet. I can't count, trust me. So it shouldn't have dipped. That's a bit weird. Streamlabs? Twitch, maybe? Twitch, maybe.
Right.
I thought it was a really nice scheme, but
Up until what age can you continue in the scheme?
I believe it's up until 25.
Okay. Right.
But I should probably double check that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think on it, as I said, it was a local government authority scheme to begin with.
Uh-huh.
And Liverpool and Everton, they both put cash in to the scheme,
Oh, good. Okay.
which is quite nice, quite wholesome.
Yeah, community-led kind of innovation, community-led, purpose-driven.
I quite like
things.
that. I mean, I think that you do need cash to help care leavers get into work. There's
No, of course.
also, you know,
Thank God for that. That high wind has stopped now. Fucking hell. I asked him earlier on, how fast was that? 2 miles an hour. Shut it. Cheeky sod. I think it was about 25, maybe 30 miles an hour at the bottom of the flat. So this high up, we are basically at the top of this block. So it's probably about 40 miles an hour swirling around this block, between this block and the one up that way. The wind tunnels, essentially, this entire street, this section of the street that we're on is a wind tunnel. Plus there's the major park here as well behind the block. So the wind comes down through the park or down from the north. Kirkintilloch, Bishopbriggs, blah blah blah, down to Springburn. And this road that we're on is basically like a tunnel for it. And it swirls around these buildings and freaks me the hell out. Ugh. We're going to get moved back in next week. Still a few more safety checks and shit to happen. Then I'll be back on the ground floor. Thank fuck.
the things that this scheme were offering, things like free travel, that is to me, that's golden ticket, right? When I went up to meet Andy Burnham to talk about his nationalisation of the buses, he was showing us how the decrease in unemployment since nationalising the buses. Because if you can afford to get onto the bus, you can go and work on the other side of the city. That really can be a barrier to entry for a lot of people.
Of course.
So free bus travel. It also offered accommodation for care leavers.
Right.
So do you know when you hit 18, you get chucked out?
Yeah.
If you're not in education,
Yeah.
you're out on the street. This scheme offers you a place to stay. Brilliant.
And this is being expanded across the country now, outside of the Liverpool.
No, it's just in 5 key cities at this
Right.
point. Yeah. So it's a trial scheme, and then it will be expanded if it goes well.
An interesting scheme, considering the kind of the furore around Liz Kendall has just all been about Pip and cutting Pip.
Well, we don't know if they are going to cut Pip anymore, do we?
Well, we'll find
And
out.
obviously,
next
I
week,
did want to ask about this. I tell you what. Well, so
Liz Kendall, can you hear me? A little bit different. I'm up here in Scotland. I speak for the Katies down in England and Wales. Don't cut Pip. The vast majority of your backbenchers, they're majorities. If you piss off the disabled, the people who get PIP or other disability other disability benefits, there's a good few thousand in the constituencies like that. So I wouldn't risk it. You're going to be driving a lot of these people. Quite a lot of disabled people are leftists too, for obvious reasons. Who'd have thunk it? Don't. It's not worth it. If you want to be an MP, that is. You shouldn't do it. Full stop. It's utterly ghoulish behaviour to deny people who cannot, a lot of us can't advocate for ourselves. I will speak up for them. I've got this platform. Plus, I've already emailed my actual MP about this, urging her to talk to to talk to Liz Kendall. I don't know how busy she is. My MP, not Liz Kendall, will be busy.
There's a little bit of a... It's worth hanging on, I think, for the end of this interview. I think, let me just play you. So she was talking about the scheme. I went to interview her about that. Here she is talking about that scheme.
We're in Liverpool. They're about to receive a grant to help young people into work. What will that look like?
Well, we're launching our youth guarantee in the Liverpool City region today, backed by £5 million of additional funding from the Labour government. And it's all about giving young people the chances and opportunities they deserve to get skills, to get training and get work.
What does that look like on the ground? Is it through travel? Or...
So they're doing brilliant things here for young care leavers who face, extra barriers. It's maybe free travel passes. It will be interview skills and training, help with doing your CV. It's access to apprenticeships, to new skills boots camps. But it's also trying to intervene a bit earlier for young people at school, maybe 16 or 17 who are struggling, and finding a way to make sure they're on the right path to get the qualifications they need to get jobs in future.
So that they don't come out and they don't end up on the welfare?
Well, we've got 1 million young people not in education, employment or training. That's 1 in 8 of all young people in this country. And that is appalling for them and their lives, because we know if you're out of work when you're young, it can have a lifelong impact in terms of your health and your career prospects and your future earnings. But it's also terrible for the country because we're missing out on the talents of all those young people. And every single young person I've spoken to today, they don't want to be on benefits. They want a chance. They want a choice. They want a future. And that's what we're giving them.
Do you think we're overdiagnosing mental health at the moment in this country?
I think there are lots more young people who have got mental health problems. I really have seen that in my own city in Leicester, young people who've come out of COVID, and it's been really hard for them to build their resilience, and they've suffered from real anxiety. So I think that there is more mental health. There's also less stigma about reporting it, and that's why I'm really proud that a couple of weeks ago the Labour government announced an additional £46 million to give 1 million more children and young people mental health support this year. That's really important in the schools, in the community, because if you can act early, you really can prevent those mental health problems starting and getting worse.
Then what happens though when they leave school? Because we've got an issue at the moment. We've got 3 million people who are receiving universal credit while they're in work. Do you think work is paying in Britain?
Well, it's paying more now. I mean, we're actually seeing wages in the first 10 months of a Labour government have risen faster than in the first 10 years of the last Tory government, with this huge increase in the minimum wage. So we are making big improvements to make work pay. We're also improving...
£12.21 an hour is crap. Raise it. Thank you. 15. Personally, I'd raise it to 20 quid an hour. But I'm a Trotskyist, apparently. Former. So they can actually say that about me if they like.
Rights at work through our Employment Rights Bill.
Universal credit, who are receiving that while they're in work. With your new planned PIP cuts and your other welfare cuts, will you take away that universal credit for working people?
No, actually, we are actually improving universal credit. We've actually our new fair repayment rate, which stops deductions from universal credit at the level that they were. It's actually giving 1.2 million households on average £425 extra a year. We want to review universal credit to make work pay. We're increasing the minimum wage. But what we're also doing is creating more good jobs in every part of the country through construction, clean energy and our modern industrial strategy. And what I'm here today to announce as part of our Get Britain Working plan is, okay, we want to create the jobs, make those jobs better quality and better pay, and now we've got to get people the skills, the training, the confidence to get that job. That's better for people and it's better for the country too.
And this is when it gets a little bit tricky. So I've just played you the first couple of answers there. Obviously, travelling to Liverpool to meet the Secretary of State, you expect more than 3 minutes. I went for a fourth question, and that's sort of where it kind of fell off.
Yeah.
Too.
And 7 million people that are going to be pushed into poverty, but that's your own impact assessment.
That does not take into account any of this extra employment support we're putting in place. It doesn't take into consideration we're going to have a bold and ambitious child poverty strategy, because if you're born in poverty, it makes your life harder from the beginning. We're determined to start changing things. I'm under no illusions about how far we've got to go, but we're making a good start and I'm determined to go further.
So I don't know if you can hear there, but that is me being told to stop asking about disability cuts.
Mm-hmm. You're being pushed to close. Yeah.
I am being pushed to close. Because the question I wanted to ask her, and I think that this is sort of where the confusion arises, because this month Parliament actually only returned yesterday, but we are meant to see that legislation in the Commons at some point during this month. But because there have been around 170 MPs that have privately, discussed with Keir Starmer, but raised concerns over this PIP cutting legislation. We're not sure if it's going to see the Commons before the House rises for the summer. But see, this is where it gets tricky, because what I wanted to ask the Secretary of State is, people are living on these benefits, or people need these benefits to go to work. You need to give them concrete information, because they're essentially sitting in limbo at this point in time.
It's also like you're alluding to it there, but the proliferation of in-work benefits, and not really, you have like the top lines of what they want to do, of paring back disability, whatever it might be. But then there's people that are relying on benefits to get through on a week-to-week or a month-to-month basis, that without any clarity on how the government are going forward, and with concern from Labour backbenches on how the government are implementing this, it's a pretty terrifying time to be someone that's claiming any sort of benefit from the state.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you consider that, PIP payments are sort of like they're an appendage to either welfare you might receive because you can't work, or they're an appendage to your salary.
Yeah.
So they're things like a mobility car, or that they're things like it's a payment to help you work.
Yeah.
It seems a rather bizarre cut to make.
Yeah.
If we go back to the beginning of this podcast, we were talking about vapes and the potential levy that they could have put onto vapes. There are plenty of other taxes that the government could have chased after, or levies that would still be in line with their manifesto pledge not to tax working people.
It would be outside the fiscal rules, though, wouldn't it, to just implement any taxes at all?
No, because he only said he was going to do it he only said not for working people. So that capital gains is still wide open.
Yep.
Land value tax is
Digital
still there.
services, you name it. Yeah. Well, digital services is probably gone now as well, isn't it, with the US trade deal?
Well, considering that JD Vance, pretty much, that was one of the first things he said to Keir Starmer in that meeting, wasn't it? He was moaning about the online safety bill and about how that could hurt American businessmen.
I wonder, considering you've got upwards of...
Fuck off, Vance. Oh my God. I will show Jessica's short after this. In 8 minutes-ish.
150 MPs in the Labour Party that are threatening to or considering voting against the government on this. And then naturally the Conservatives, I think I read yesterday or the day before that the Conservatives are going to vote against the PIP cuts, not because of how cruel they are, but because they don't go far enough. But so the will they, won't they scrap it is interesting to me, because I wonder, when you had things like the 2-child benefit cap and you had people like John McDonnell and Zara Sultana losing the Labour whip because of their opposition to that, can the government afford to take the whip away from maybe 100, in and around 100 MPs?
No, absolutely not. He's also not. There won't be 100 MPs that will rebel against him. I think that it's a very exciting media storm, right? To say this is going to be Starmer's first big defeat in the House of Commons since becoming Prime Minister. It's not going to happen. They are going to amend this legislation. You know, there's still a green paper to come, and there's still a little bit of tweaking that can be done. And what the bulk of the more moderate MPs are asking for is more leniency for people who might have. One of the discrepancies is if you've got, how do I phrase this? If you've got more than one thing, more than one disability, they want sort of a point system so that you're not affected by these cuts, because that's one of the, there's going to be bargaining. They're meeting with the PLP regularly. They're going to tweak things before it meets the division lobby. It's not going to go to the House of Commons in the form that it's in right now.
Yeah.
And just one more thing I wanted to add on to that. We haven't really spoken about universal credit. The health element of universal credit would be affected by these PIP cuts. But if you remember, during COVID, there was a £20 uplift that was given to people who were on universal credit. And it was actually Labour in the January of 2021 who tabled an opposition day motion to maintain the uplift. This was when the Conservatives were going to slice it back off again.
Yeah.
So that was Keir Starmer who put that forward. And it did actually pass unanimously. I think it was at nearly 300 votes it passed by, because Conservative MPs were advised to abstain, possibly because the optics of saying, well, all of these Conservative MPs voted to push people back into poverty wasn't a real good look.
Yeah. Especially in January 2021, you're during the pandemic at that point as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, keeping that £20 uplift, these people on universal credit, that wasn't adjusted during inflation. We had at one point 11% inflation. And just for the people at the back, when food prices rise, when energy prices rise, well, energy's a little bit different, but food, certainly, they don't go back down again. No. Once bread hits £1.50 a loaf, it stays there.
It stays there and goes further. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at compound interest, right? On all of these items. People on universal credit still haven't had an uplift.
Yeah.
Or a tangible one, a significant one.
Yeah. It's always playing catch up.
And you think any of our ghoulish parties would fucking do that? Remember, people, we are scum. We don't deserve to eat. The only reason we're managing to eat better now, I struggle to eat reasons. But there's more money coming into our household now, because my benefit's up here now. My benefit isn't administered by Department of Work and Pensions anymore. Thank fuck. Because I was left languishing on the lowest amount for years, fucking ages. And the only thing it was good for was buying me my stuff, my supports, any sort of makeup I needed. And if need be, before I got my bus ticket, my bus pass, if the weather was bad for me, if I couldn't go out, high winds, stoating it, like bucketing from the heavens, I wouldn't have been able to get out. And at that point, I would have just stayed in the house, sending him out. So he basically does everything around the household. But now I can add to the finances and we can buy better food. We're going to a farmer's market every Saturday now. Yay! Well, he is. And when I can, I try to get out with him to the farmer's market. I don't go and do the main shop with him. I don't walk fast enough. Plus, I get knackered. But being able to get to this fantastic farmer's market every Saturday in the West End, brilliant, love it. We're going on Saturday. So I can add to the finances to get better quality food, more local food, good, more veg. And when they're in season, soft fruits, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, blah, blah, blah. I love raspberries. Now, if we could only grow lemons in Scotland, I'd be set.
Up with the cost of living, you're never on par, or you're never hitting parity with what you were once able to afford, especially since like the mini budget, 2022 mini budget. Like the disparity between what you earn if you're on benefits and what you can afford to buy has grown wider and wider and wider, and there's no meeting, there's no narrowing of that gap. Absolutely. At any point. And so then when, like, as I was saying earlier, like the uncertainty around how any of these, how any of your benefits outside of disability benefits or health related benefits are affected by the reforms, when you're already in a position where you've spent 5 or 6 years really scrimping and you're unsure of how you're going to be impacted in a year's time, it's not a good place to be in.
But it's a totally nonsensical position for the government to take as well, because, you know, this is what I would have liked to have asked this Kendall about. I do think that people should be helped into work. I think that for many people, work gives you purpose. But for a lot of people who aren't in work, it's because they are not able to get into work. And it might be because they don't have access to a car, or they don't have access to particular equipment that they need. Cutting the PIP payment that is there to supply the help to get into work, that to me is nonsensical.
Yeah.
Because of allergic reaction, I can't use the supports that have neoprene in them because, dear God, the rash is fucking mental. So I have to spend, like, the ones that Neo-G, disregard them completely. They're the most expensive, and they use some of the cheapest materials known to man for supports for people who need them. And a few of us are allergic to neoprene because it's easy to manufacture. I have to spend extra to get the ones without neoprene. Oh God, they're through in the living room. Fuck. So I use wrist ones and knee ones. There is no such thing as a hip brace or a hip support. There's back brace. They're 60 fucking quid for me. The ones with neoprene are 40. But the ones I would buy are 60 quid. There's no point in me doing that, because if I get that wrong, or if he puts it on me too tight, doing more damage. So what I do, I get him to massage me. Feels better anyway. So I've got extra. So if they take that away from people who are allergic to neoprene, they might, I don't know what they could do. Wrap their arm in cling film, then put the support on? That seems daft. So, reducing their benefits like that, people who need the supports, neck ones as well. So, no, don't cut it. We need this extra money to buy the supports for ourselves. Plus taxis are expensive as well for people who have disabilities.
need to put structures in place to allow people into work or to empower people to, whether it's things like grants to work from home for people who have mobility issues or whatever it might be. You need to have these things in place, and you need to see a direct impact of the work that you're doing to make it feasible for people who can't work now to work. And then you can maybe consider paring back on other things like disability benefits, like out of work benefits, like health benefits. But to do that before you put any consideration, investment or research into why people aren't working in the first place is, I don't know, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
And twinned with the push against people working from home, the government push to get people back into the office. Stupid.
Silly.
Then, you know, I'd be really interested to know how many people have become semi-agoraphobic from the pandemic and who benefit from working from home.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to have people working from home than not working.
Well, there's...
I don't work in the Department for Work and Pension.
Ah.
But if I did, I'd probably say something.
Will I be able to read your writing?
Probably not.
Geezer. Euro millions, comrades. Fingers crossed.
The one that says the date on it.
Oh, I'm not getting a million record. What the fuck? That second line's mad. Holy. Damn. No one won the jackpot tonight for the Euro Millions. 9 countries? 11 countries? I can't remember. Us and a few on the continent. No one won, which is 5 main numbers and the 2 lucky stars. So Friday's jackpot, estimated £208 million. I'll say again, fingers crossed. I will become mother to you all. Once I get my house set up. I don't know where yet. First need to win. Oh well.
Like that.
The DWP are on a massive recruitment drive to get thousands of new... That's what the defence spending is for. They're going to get new soldiers to knock on people's doors who are working from home and force them to find an office to work in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. What time is it?
I think we were about done there, Albin.
Yeah.
Right, fellas. Thanks for
good
coming.
Tuesday podding, that, isn't it?
See you on the subreddit, fellas.
You will indeed.
Bye.
is she? Gimme. Gimme. I've lost her. Give me my Jessica. I want my Jessica. Ha! Got it.
UK Prime Minister told, remove laws protecting LGBTQ plus people or lose Trump trade deal. Excuse me? The US Vice President, J.D. Vance, this chap, man who photoshopped the eyes on his official portrait to look like a Toddlers and Tiaras contestant, am I the only person who sees this? Is pressuring the UK to roll back hate speech laws specifically protecting LGBTQ plus people as a condition of landing a trade deal. All in the name of free speech, of course. Just as long as it's his speech. According to senior Washington figures, embracing Donald Trump's agenda is a key condition of the deal. Yes, he did choose supervillain and proud for his official portrait. Is no one doing PR for these people? Oh, but a source in Downing Street told The Independent that axing hate speech laws is not a feature of the deal, so, we can all breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, yeah, he did kill the Pope, but that was totally accidental, right? No, it's fine. It's fine. It's definitely fine. It's all fine. It's completely fine. We're all going to be fine. We're going to be fine. UK Prime Minister told, remove laws protecting LGBTQ plus people or lose Trump trade deal. Excuse me? The US Vice...
I'd rather not have the trade deal. I'd rather, full stop, I'd rather not have the trade deal. But if that's one of the conditions, tell them where to fucking go. Jana, if you're here, I've got one that might make you laugh. Trust me, not all of us think this one.
Love podcast statement.
Where is it? Do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do. Gimme. Oh, there's there.
Look, I knew Americans were strange.
We're strange? I mean, we are, but so are you. I mean, you put beans on toast.
They have a day where they literally celebrate mayonnaise. But they celebrate a day for mayonnaise.
When did this happen? I have never heard of a celebration for mayo.
It's called Cinco de Mayo.
What does she think Cinco means? I mean, this is just an insult to Americans as well as Mexicans, because she is not even involving that country of where that celebration comes from.
So, in my true American spirit, I am trying my best to be as American as possible.
Then you have the wrong condiment in your hand. You will need a lime. As for you should be drinking tequila from the country of where tequila originates. It's not America.
I am simply just going to eat mayonnaise.
On a piece, right?
I'd like to see that.
Look, I knew Americans were strange.
Sorry, Mexico. Sorry, America. I don't know what to say. I can't help. Please explain. I don't. Okay. That was interesting.
Welcome to Queer History 101 Part 3. We all know the rainbow flag as the symbol of the LGBTQ+ community, but why? The rainbow flag was created in 1978 by artist, veteran and drag performer Gilbert Baker. He was commissioned to create a flag for Santa. Welcome to Queer History 101 Part 3. We all know the rainbow flag as the symbol of the LGBTQ+ community, but why? The rainbow flag was created in 1978 by artist, veteran and drag performer Gilbert Baker. He was Hello, lovely people. Please excuse building noise. It's just happening and I can't stop it because we're behind. Welcome to another video from my Pride Month series. And yes, I do like to call things a series because it makes me feel fancy and there's nothing wrong with that. If you too like to make your Pride Month both fancy and year-round, then subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about queer cinema, except we're not. No, instead we're talking about the history of queer coding, which is when you get a really heteronormative film and then you just sprinkle a bit of rainbow glitter in it for fun. Or is it? Oh well, I guess you'll just have to watch the rest of the video to find out. Throughout history, the depiction of the LGBTQ+ community in film has directly influenced how queer people are treated by society, largely because the majority of society doesn't know that many queer people, except for that one cousin who's always been a bit different. One might even say queer. Just to clear up any confusion, although this film term utilises the word queer, it generally refers to just the spectrum of sexuality. So despite it using the spectrum of gender to do so, today we're just going to be talking about characters who read as lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual,
Please elucidate, my darling. If you mean in a sports way, my coordination's probably fucking well off by now, but I used to play tennis. I've tried badminton, too fast, too fast-paced. Tennis easier. Oh, I will do one anyway. Sit there. Nail's still looking a mess. Oh, can't do that one yet. Thank you. I needed that.
or similar. I know we often use the word queer nowadays to mean LGBTQ+, but that wasn't taken into consideration in the 1930s and 40s or by the academics who study this and look back at that time. Surprisingly, in very early cinema, queer characters did actually exist, and they weren't all killed by their own villainy. Then we went through a bad patch, in which the only way a film would let you be a sympathetic queer character was if said queerness was the thing you hated most about yourself, and you died. Or you could be a queer villain who died. And then the film industry realised that queers actually have money too, so we got some indie queers who didn't die, and it was really exciting. But then there was a plateau, and now we seem to have either queerbaiting, where characters depict an obviously queer relationship without acknowledging its incredible queerness, or that thing I don't have a name for, where creators say that they totally have a gay in their film, but then the character doesn't do or say anything overtly gay and doesn't show any interest in anyone romantically or sexually. A moment of silence for Dumbledore's love life. I mean, it's not the worst thing J.K. Rowling's done recently, but the poor guy deserves better. I could pretend that either of these actions are potentially unintentional. But really, let's be honest, this is just capitalising on marginalised audiences without running any of the risk that comes with true representation. And both of these issues are born from a past of negative narrative LGBTQ+ representation that we call queer coding. That's what today's video is about. Now, you may have heard that term before, you may have not. You may have written a university dissertation about it, but that was a while ago, so you decided to make a YouTube video to brush up on your knowledge because, continued education is important. Queer coding refers to a process by which characters in a piece of fictional media present as queer without them saying they are, showing they are, or being referred to as such. Instead, they have a series of characteristics that are traditionally associated with queerness. So, masculine presentations by female characters and effeminate presentations by male characters. I told you it was going to be a whole gender thing. So I previously called queer coding negative, but it, as with other narrative devices screenwriters, authors and directors use, is innately negative itself. Writers can slip a queer-coded character into their very, very heteronormative Hollywood blockbuster in order to give a bit of representation to a community that is underserved. Or the writer may not realise that their character reads as gay, but the queer community just takes it and runs with it because we are really that starved of representation. However, it's a tool that can be used for negative purposes, and very often is. Queer coding has its roots in early Hollywood cinema, when the US government, along with a number of religious and conservative groups, became extremely concerned with the effect various forms of media were having on the public. They did not want perverse.
Nice one. That's good. So they'll be well looked after. Yay.
Subjects like homosexuality shown, and any portrayals of deviance, such as sex before marriage or other such fun, had to result in the character getting their comeuppance, usually by dying. There was a lot of dying. In 1930, in an attempt to stave off government censorship, the big Hollywood studios created their own conservative set of rules for what was allowed to be shown on the big screen. The Motion Picture Production Code, colloquially known as the Hays Code, for Will H. Hays, the first head of the Office of Enforcement. Pre-code Hollywood films were surprisingly modern in some respects. They often had a feminist slant, with working mothers treated with affection, sympathy. They dealt with drug and alcohol addiction and compassionate narratives, and they even allowed provocative explorations of sexuality and power. And that wasn't all heterosexuality, as 1930s Morocco even featured the first lesbian kiss in sound cinema. But the code's strict set of rules governed American filmmaking for 3 decades, both shaping and stifling it. Since films could only present correct standards of life for the times, unless the plot just demanded something else, some directors even shied away from making films that centered on poverty, never mind homosexuality. Nudity and overt portrayals of or references to sexual behaviour, even between consenting adults, could not be shown. Even the aftermath of sexual activity, pregnancy and childbirth weren't allowed to be shown. Hence the scene in Gone with the Wind where Melanie gives birth entirely in shadow. Directors who wanted to show their married couples discussing something in the night time had to put them in separate beds. Which is why 2 single beds with a nightstand became a universal trope in Hollywood's golden age, even for couples who had multiple children. I mean, all romantic scenes required a woman to have at least 1 foot on the floor to prevent scenes in bed, which led to foot propping becoming popular, although it wasn't actually named until The Princess Diaries, but that series gave us so much. Revenge wasn't allowed as a theme or a premise in stories set during modern times due to a rule against glorifying violence, so directors just started making a lot of westerns instead. That's vaguely historical, right? So there were a number of ways to get around the code, but there were also hard lines drawn, even if they went against the source material. The film, From Here to Eternity, had a source book including soldiers fraternising with male prostitutes and a character whose infertility was caused by her gonorrhea. Weirdly, they just called the brothel a gentleman's club and the prostitutes waiters, but everyone still acts the same. Whilst Tea and Sympathy changed Tom being mistaken for being gay because he was getting close to a gay teacher to being mistaken for being gay because he is seen sewing. Not being able to say this character is gay forced filmmakers to create a visual shorthand that allowed the audience to clue into what was going on, but not get their film banned. This led to painfully stereotypical characterizations that we could argue still bleed into today's media. Men perceived as homosexual would exhibit feminine features such as having a perfumed scent, being soft-spoken, moving around in a dainty fashion, or being physically weaker than the leading male protagonist who was macho. Lesbians were just downright evil, as was any woman who was in touch with her sexuality, really. These women were written as promiscuous and sexually devious, with men and with women, so depictions of pulp noir femme fatales and other psycho-lesbians just rose in popularity. Yes, the film trope is actually called psycho-lesbian. For years, the code allowed bigotry to make all lesbian characters on screen exclusively psychotic and villainous. Deviant figures weren't allowed to be sympathetic or rewarded after all, so sadly, we still see this today with tropes such as go straight or go crazy, where women are just driven wild by their lesbian love affairs, but as soon as they get a boyfriend, their mental health just improves. I'm looking at you, uncomfortable number of works featuring teenage girls. Of course, your evil lesbian might just be a vampire. The 1935 film Dracula's Daughter features a steamy scene where Dracula's daughter attacks and bites the female model she'd been drawing. Of course, the model was only wearing a bra and the straps were pulled down and she flails in the world's most useless but also weirdly provocative manner with lots of, "No, don't touch me." I mean, did the Hays Codes just not notice the lesbianism? Oh no, they did. They just didn't mind, because her murderous lesbianism is supposed to be off-putting. I mean, no, but have at it. Universal advertised the film with the tagline, "Save the women of London from Dracula's daughter. It's gay." So while depicting an LGBTQ+ character was frowned upon, depicting them in a specifically negative light was not. After all, you're not endorsing an alternative lifestyle. If you show being gay is basically the worst thing ever, that definitely always leads to an untimely demise. They're just merely paying for their poor choices, right? Because being gay, totally a choice that no one in the 1930s would choose. This trope mutated into what we now refer to as bury your gays. Again, mainly lesbians. All the lesbians die. Screw Dumbledore's love life. A moment of silence for every lesbian character who didn't make it. Again, gay coding isn't in itself a bad thing, but too often in classical Hollywood, gay coding is just indicative of nefarious characters. In 1941's The Maltese Falcon, there's a character Joe Cairo who is introduced by his gardenia-scented business cards because he's gay. His queerness is further implied by his seemingly delicate nature and the subtle yet suggestive way he handles his cane. Thanks to these attributes, the protagonist remains suspicious of Joel's intent, and is, of course, proved correct once Joel pulls a gun on him. Since being gay was lumped in with being a lawbreaker, and criminals had to be evil people who got their comeuppance in films that were passed by the code, the representation was,
Rejoice! Igloo BC has arrived. Hello, my Canadian comrade. Mwah. Welcome in. Happy Pride.
Overwhelmingly negative, and again impacted society's view of gay people. Anyone with homosexual tendencies was seen as untrustworthy and promiscuous. This viewpoint contributed to the lack of protection granted to queer people at that time and even into our current era, which is not to say that there weren't directors and writers who managed to get portrayals of non-negative homosexuality into their films. It just didn't get a happy ending. Rebel Without a Cause's director, Nicholas Ray, is said to have told the lead's male best friend to look at the protagonist the same way his girlfriend did. Of course, our barely concealed gay character then has to die, but at least they treated it like a tragedy. I did tell you there was going to be a lot of death. B-movies and genre films were able to get away with more, so film noirs and westerns feature a lot of fun between the lines. Cowboys, for example, order a lot of sarsaparilla at bars that aren't actually allowed to serve them alcohol, but it's actually not a substitute for whiskey, it's a 19th century treatment for syphilis. My personal favourite is Gilda, which has this love triangle between two men and a woman that goes every which way and makes a great use of the indirect kiss trope, which is when two characters who aren't allowed to kiss on screen, so they share spit another way by eating from the same plate or sharing a cigarette or kissing the same person but making it all about each other. Lighting someone else's cigarette was code for lighting up their downstairs, and boy do they do that a lot in this film. It's a gem. Another of my favourite films, Bringing Up Baby, features the first time the word gay was used on screen to mean homosexual, although clearly that went over the head of the censors at the time. While David, played by Cary Grant, is taking a shower, Katharine Hepburn's Susan steals his clothes in order to make him stay. He's then forced to wear her frilly bathrobe when answering the door. The woman on the outside badgers him as to where his clothes are. He replies that he's lost them. She pompously asks why he's wearing a frilly bathrobe instead, and he jumps in the air saying, "I just went gay all of a sudden." Oh, you think he means silly or light-hearted? Well, she then tells him to stop his nonsense and asks why he sat down, to which he replies, "I'm sitting in the middle of 42nd Street waiting for a bus." Which, if you'd happened to be a gay man pre-World War II, you'd know was one of the main hotspots in New York for gay men, so... But if you didn't know, you didn't know, and the censors apparently didn't know. The gay men watching probably enjoyed the reference, though. So we can see that queer coding can have benefits too. By possessing certain characteristics, be that style of dress, mannerisms, niche phrases, they could instantly be recognisable to other members of the community, maintaining a guise of straightness to the general public. Moving on to the post-Hays Code period. Kidding! Oh, you didn't think I was going to talk about the Hays Code and not bring up the racism, did you? We lost a lot of amazing actors, writers and Hollywood talent to the Code. People whose careers were going places, who were doing well in the 1920s, but then going into the 30s, they just weren't straight enough or religious enough or white enough, and they didn't work again. The topics banned as perverse included homosexuality and bestiality, as you'd expect, not that they're the same thing, but thanks homophobia, yet it also included miscegenation or interracial relationships. Prior to the Code, interracial relationships had been shown on screen. We would probably find the depictions a little offensive today, but for the time they were sensitively handled. The Code changed that and led to what we call the like goes with like trope, where the white leading man must be paired with a white leading lady, and the black best friend has to be paired with a black love interest. This applied even when the white person was pretending to be a different race. Ugh. Studios used this explicitly racist ban on depicting miscegenation to justify the exclusion of non-white actors from employment. Or they just reasoned that the Code would be breached if either actor or character was of a different race, Anna May Wong was the leading Chinese-American actress of the time and a big hit with the public, even internationally, but she struggled to work once the Code was in place. Reluctant to cast an Asian-American actress as a female lead, Hollywood instead cast Anna May in supporting roles, playing stereotypically Chinese characters. She could not kiss a white actor or be cast as his wife, even if he was in Yellowface playing an Asian character. This led to the biggest disappointment of her career, when she was passed over for the role of Olan in a film adaptation of The Good Earth, despite the newspapers hyping her up as a shoo-in for the part, because a white actor had already been cast to play the Chinese leading man. Yes, that's stupid. Freddie Washington was also an amazing actress who lost her career to the Code due to her race. She's best known for her portrayal of Piola in 1934's groundbreaking film Imitation of Life, in which she plays a fair-skinned girl born to a black mother who tries to pass for white and breaks her mother's heart in the process. Freddie herself was mixed race, and her light skin tone was both a blessing and a curse when it came to working in movies. She was paid more than other black actresses, but since she was fair-skinned, she couldn't be cast alongside a black actor in case the audience mistook her for being white, but she couldn't actually be cast next to a white actor anyway. She retired from films by the end of the 1930s, but her experiences as an actress led to her becoming outspoken about racism and active in the civil rights movement. But what happened next? Well, the Code lasted until 1968, when it was overwhelmed by the civil rights movement, women's liberation, and eventually the gay rights movement. LGBTQ+ audiences became a market to be served, because who knew? Gay people actually go to the cinema. Whilst depictions of these characters were no longer banned, sadly many of the harmful tropes established during the Hays Code era had done their damage on the Hollywood psyche. Even today, some creators still have a hard time detaching themselves from those depictions of certain characters. As such, many villains continue to read as gay, both intentionally and by accident. Male villains like Scar or Hades are effeminate compared to their hypermasculine and heroic counterparts, Simba and Hercules. Female villains like Maleficent and Ursula are devious and masculine compared to their sweetly wholesome Disney princess heroines. Not Shigo though, she's just gay because she's gay and no one can take that crush away from me. But yes, there is a clear pathway between queer women are corrupting influences and queer men are less than manly and are modern villains. I'm not saying that they are intended to read as queer characters. Coding does not need to be intentional, but the current stereotypical means of presenting villainy, think about any Bond villain, is still born from previous iterations of queerness on screen. Think about that trope of like the crazy ex-girlfriend or the woman who falls in love with the married man and then goes insane. Along the way, she also ends up flirting with a woman or kissing a woman or being sexual to literally everyone, because can't just let bisexuals live their lives, can you? Ultimately, our learned understanding of queer behaviour comes in part from the media we've consumed. Even if we're queer ourselves, we've been taught the signs and the signals to pick up on. But queer coding does not always work against the LGBTQ+ community. Some of our queer heroes on screen are just merely coded that way. Xena is not canonically queer. It hurts. But her interests and physicality align more to the masculine end of the gender spectrum that we've been taught, and thus we see her as being so. Also, she just has a general disinterest in the company of men and a really, really close relationship with her female sidekick Gabrielle. So, similarly, no one has ever actually said Faith from Buffy the Vampire Slayer isn't straight, but she definitely isn't straight. Also, in love with Buffy because they're soulmates, and my OTP, until the day I die, they'll be together. And interestingly, going back to villains for a minute, how many of them also become queer fan favourites because they speak to us as characters who sit outside the mainstream, who live between the lines of society and uncover the truth of the narrative. They're sympathetic to those of us who also aren't the mainstream. There's even a film term for it: rainbow lens. You've seen this film. Okay, bear with. Our lead is different. They always have been. They were born this way, but maybe they're only just realising it now. The thing that makes them different is a really big deal, and it shapes who they are, but they can't tell anyone. And if their secret's discovered, they could be rejected by their loved ones or society in general. Oh my god, they're totally not gay though. No, it's just like superpowers or magic or something. Totally not gay. Not gay, not gay. They're not gay, they're just relatable to the gays. Otherwise known as queer screenwriter would like to make a queer story, is aware it won't get picked up by big production company, gives queer new name. The result is a queer-coded film rather than a character. It's a coming-out story about starting to accept who you are and the difficult process of sharing your specialness with those around you and possibly being rejected and dealing with homophobia without the word homophobia because we're trying to keep it PG. When done intentionally and well, creators can explore queer themes and help the more conservative side of the audience understand a queer perspective without alienating them. But we're in 2020 now, and many characters who would at one point have been just vaguely referenced as being a bit different are now out and proud queers. Examples would be like Santana from Glee and Cheryl Blossom from Riverdale. They're both, of course, queer-coded villains at the start of the show who became openly queer and sympathetic characters. It's difficult to balance though, much like depicting villains who have disabilities. And wow, is that a big topic for another day. There's this delicate balance between depicting a queer-coded antagonist and having a villain who just happens to be gay. Can evil characters be queer without the filmmakers being perceived as homophobic? Discuss in the comments below. My 2 cents, if your only queer character is a villain, you need more queer characters or you've got a problem. Queer coding is a strange thing. It's given us representation where there would otherwise be none, offensive stereotypes that we still can't shake, and storylines that just make us want to yell, "He's gay, for God's sake! Just say he's gay! This is clearly a story about him being gay! Stop with the magic powers!" Queer coding has given us queer characters to champion and to claim. But if you're writing a queer coded character in 2020 and they aren't ever coming out, that's just queer baiting. And I need to speak to your manager. Thank you for joining this class on queer media. Damn, but I'm cheaper than your uni. If you enjoyed learning about the history of queer coding and want more sassy educational videos, then subscribe and consider clicking the join button to become a member of the Calgren Phrase Lab Club, where you will support the channel alongside gaining access to behind the scenes videos, a members only area of my Discord board and other cuteness. Now I need to go lie down for a really long time. I shall see you in my next video. Mwah.
Let's oh my god. Let's go and say hi to No Justice of the MTGs. Helena. Thank you, everyone. It has been awesome. I will see you all over there. I might stream again after Helena. Watch this space. I will announce because I try to go regular at midnight. I was using this as a starting place for any Kevolutionaries. Eggle, you're more than welcome to come over as well. Here we go.